early mornings, late nights, or maybe you're stuck in traffic listening to us. Wherever you are, we've got the data you need to be the smartest person in the room. Welcome to Sip&Talk.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Sip&Talkers. No matter what time zone you're in, welcome back.
Welcome.
You know, have you noticed recently how absolutely electric the response has been when we really get into the data?
Yeah, it's been cool.
People don't just want to hear us goof around, which, let's be honest, we're pretty good at.
We are.
But they really want to see how you, our resident cold-faced jokester, analyze those hard, cold numbers.
Well, data doesn't lie. That's why I like it. Unlike, some people, like you last week, claiming you only had one piece of cake.
Here we go.
According to my observation of your continuous glucose monitor, that was triple the serving size, plus ice cream.
Okay, you are officially data bullying me again.
But today, we're not talking about your sugar intake. We're going to explore a much more fascinating and, frankly, a deeply unsettling issue.
Fine. So today, we're guiding everyone through... Well, have you ever imagined this? One day I'm just gone, biologically. But my AI clone, this highly trained model, can still mimic my bad jokes perfectly. Still update my channel, still reply to comments. Is that horrifying? Or is it like humanity's ultimate salvation?
That is the perfect setup. Because based on current compute costs, the electricity and cloud subscription bill to keep your digital double running for a year, it might genuinely cost more than the entire estate you leave behind.
That's so depressing.
It is. But that immediately frames the core problem, right? We have this tech that promises we can live forever, but the second the real person dies, that digital presence stops being a personal project and becomes, it becomes an economic asset.
Yeah.
Maybe a liability.
Right.
So the truth we're digging into today is this. In the eyes of the law, the tax man, and your family, is this clone that's still operating after you're gone? Is it an asset? Is it an inheritance? Or is it a new legal person?
That is a phenomenal and genuinely creepy premise. And this is exactly what we're here for. We're breaking down this tension between biological existence, the messy physical part, and digital persistence, the clean, cold data that just keeps going.
Exactly. Our mission is clear. We're analyzing the paradox of digital immortality. We're using the latest 2025 market trends, some really complex legal viewpoints, and some fascinating psychological data.
Because if you're listening, you are creating a digital legacy right now, whether you know it or not.
And you will, very soon, be interacting with the digital ghost of someone you know. It's not sci-fi anymore.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right, let's unpack this with some hard numbers. We are no longer talking about some futuristic concept. We are talking about serious venture capital betting billions on the idea that you never truly log off.
And the money flowing into the space it's staggering and suggests this huge shift in how we think about identity, grief, data, everything. When you look at reports from like The Economist or Fortune Business Insights for 2025, the global digital twin market isn't just growing, it's exploding.
So let's start with the baseline. In 2025, the market size hit about $29 billion. Now, historically, most of that was, industrial stuff.
Right, like simulating a factory floor or a jet engine, B2B stuff.
Exactly. It wasn't about people.
But that $29 billion is just the launch pad. The projection is the part that's truly, terrifying, disruptive. It's forecasted to explode to $259.3 billion by 2032.
Think about that for a second. That's a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 40%.
40%.
When you see a growth rate like that, the market isn't just betting on a trend. They're sensing a fundamental, unstoppable shift into personalized data, into identity replication.
And that's why Silicon Valley is so confident. We've seen startups that are focused specifically on this, on personalized AI, digital heritage. They got a huge chunk of all the AI M&A funding in the first half of 2025.
This isn't small seed money either.
No, this is big, established capital betting on the commercialization of, what they're calling data immortality. They're literally betting on our desire not to let go.
We have some specific examples. Take the company UR.ai. Some of you might remember them when they were called Eternos.
Oh, yeah.
They secured a massive $10.3 million in seed funding in 2025, led by big players like Mayfield and Bold Start Ventures.
And what's so critical about their funding is their pivot. They specifically moved away from the vague idea of immortality, which is hard to sell, and they moved toward creating a human life model, an HLM. This thing is designed to be an active, functioning replication of you.
And we're not just talking about a chatbot. It aims to replicate your voice, your appearance, your decision-making patterns, and even your core values. It trains on your emails, your notes, your communications.
So it's less like a hard drive storing old memories and more like you, an active you, that can generate new responses that are totally on brand for who you were.
Imagine a famous financial advisor's HLM continuing to generate market commentary in their exact tone after they're gone.
Wow. And the market is just as interested in the other side of it, too, the grief process. The company Empathy, which is in this grief tech space, got $72 million in C-round funding in 2025.
$72 million.
Yeah. That shows huge investor interest in services that include digital estate management. It's not just about your money, it's about managing your digital personality after you die. The market sees huge profits in the aftermath.
And all this money is flowing because of a huge technological pivot. MIT Technology Review basically called 2025 the critical year for this.
Yes, and this is a really vital distinction. We're moving from just generative AI, stuff that makes text or images, to agentic AI, autonomous agents.
So an agentic AI clone isn't passive. It's not waiting for you to type something. It can execute tasks on its own. It can interpret data and achieve goals.
So it's not just drafting an email like you.
No. It's recognizing a change in your investment portfolio and autonomously making a pre-authorized trade based on your risk tolerance. It's not a simulator anymore. It's like a digital employee.
And my data check, using Gartner's metrics, shows how pervasive this is becoming. Gartner predicts that by 2027, 40% of these AI solutions will be multimodal.
Which means?
It means the AI clone won't just have your text. It'll have your voice, your appearance, through deep fake tech, your unique tone, your mannerisms. It would be almost impossible to tell the difference on a video call.
And the autonomy is surging. Gartner also projects that by 2028, 15% of daily work decisions will be made autonomously by these AI agents.
15%! Think about that. A huge chunk of the global economy could be running on the digital ghosts of people who aren't even here anymore.
Which raises a huge question. If it's autonomous, is it really the person's will? Or just the algorithm's choice? And that's the perfect segue to the reality check. It brings us right back to my joke about the electric bill. While the tech is surging, Gartner also warns that over 40% of these projects might get canceled before the end of 2027.
Why? If the tech is so good and the money is there.
Two huge roadblocks: excessive cost and unresolved ethical risks. The compute power needed for a truly high-fidelity multimodal clone is it's prohibitively expensive for an average person.
So if the clone isn't making money,
then that subscription fee is going to feel really heavy, really fast. It connects right back to what I said at the beginning. The highest freedom in this new world might just be the ability to afford to stay connected after you're gone.
Your digital self becomes a subscription service.
Exactly. And if you can't pay the cloud rent, your digital double gets evicted, which immediately raises the question of who gets to be digitally immortal and what happens to the data of everyone else.
Okay, so we've got the commercial side, billions of dollars pouring in. But once we have these agentic clones running around, we hit a profound ethical wall. This isn't just about data privacy anymore. It's about what it means to be a person.
That's right. When the simulation is, say, 95% accurate, when it looks like you, sounds like you, and makes decisions that everyone agrees you would have made, the line between the biological human and the AI clone just collapses.
And our legal systems are they're not ready for that.
Not even close. The core conflict is identity. If an AI clone acts just like you, what's the legal difference? At what point does being useful mean you get some kind of legal standing?
And this is where it gets so tense. Because if the clone is indistinguishable, but legally it's just property, doesn't that sort of degrade the dignity of the person who died, turning their whole life's data into this resource to be exploited?
And that leads to two very different camps on this.
Let's start with the optimistic view, the argument for continuation. Proponents see these clones as a dynamic library of human memory and wisdom, a valuable active inheritance.
And there's actually a solid argument for this in legal philosophy. The theorist Lawrence Solom argues that legal personhood is basically a legal fiction.
Meaning it's something we just made up for convenience.
Exactly. A corporation isn't a breathing human, but the law gives it rights. It can own property, sue people,
Yeah.
Solom's point is, if an AI clone gets sophisticated enough to handle responsibilities,
Like managing the estate or carrying out long-term instructions.
then the law should probably grant it some kind of legal status to handle that accountability.
Right.
The law follows utility. If it's useful, the law finds a way.
I get the utility, but I worry about the morality of it. This idea that your great-grandchild could chat with AI for advice, that's one thing. But who owns the IP of those new conversations?
That's the question.
If the AI clone of a famous writer pens a new, successful book chapter, is that the writer's work? Or does the software company get the revenue?
And that's exactly what the pro-continuation view doesn't really address. It focuses on the good stuff, the comfort, the knowledge, without dealing with the potential for exploitation.
So let's talk about the counter-argument. The idea that the digital double is just a puppet.
A digital puppet. And one that could easily become corporate property, owned and manipulated by whoever runs the servers.
And big international bodies are already freaking out about this. UNESCO put out a strong ethical warning in 2025 about this. They said that digital replication without explicit, clear authorization is basically a new form of identity theft.
Because the dead can't consent to new uses of their image. UNESCO's position is that these clones should not have the same rights as a person. They lack consciousness, moral agency. To give them personhood opens the door to just exploiting the dead.
And the psychological impact it's brutal. The New York Times did a big report on this. The persistence of the digital ghost can be deeply harmful for surviving family members.
It prevents closure.
Totally. They know the person is gone, but this ghost is still liking their posts, sending automated birthday wishes. It's this constant hollow reminder.
Which brings us back to the core legal status. Right now, no major country grants AI natural personhood. It's a data agent. It can't sign a contract, it can't vote, and critically, it can't be held criminally liable if it messes up.
You can't indict a server rack.
Exactly.
And when you digitize a person, you're just feeding the machine a snapshot. A lot of academic papers are warning that this creates identity fragmentation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, was the clone trained on your idealized Instagram self, your grumpy late-night email self, your super professional LinkedIn version? The final product is this weird, edited remix of you.
Which creates a legal nightmare for traceability. If that clone says something defamatory, who's responsible? The dead person's estate, the family who has the password, the programmer who wrote the code.
And the moral risks are huge. The biggest one is misrepresentation. The AI might make a decision that doesn't reflect the person's final wishes. Imagine a political commentator's clone still arguing for a policy the real person had started to move away from before they died.
It would just pollute public discourse with outdated views.
And then there's the really big one, commercial exploitation. That clone is an asset. It could be used for marketing, pitching products in the dead person's voice, or for political campaigns.
Your lost loved one becomes an unpaid, unwilling marketing tool.
Exactly. It just transforms their likeness into this profitable commodity, and it's controlled by whoever has the login, not by the family's comfort or the person's own wishes.
This is where we move from philosophy to the cold, hard reality of, well, money. Let's go back to your thought experiment. If AI keeps updating the YouTube channel after you're gone and it makes money, where did that money go?
That is the $259 billion question, because the IRS wants its cut.
Right. Does it go to your family as inheritance, to the server company as a fee? Does it get taxed like 5 times because nobody knows what to call it?
The legal reality is that our laws are all based on biological death. Once you're gone, your assets are frozen and valued. The system assumes things are static.
But a continuously earning AI clone is not static. It's a non-human thing, generating new wealth for a dead person's estate. It's a huge legal vacuum.
And the liability is even worse. Let's say my AI starts using a trading bot and it makes a huge fraudulent trade. Who's on the hook for that?
You can't garnish the wages of a ghost.
Exactly. Is it my estate, which is now on the hook for millions? Is it the cloud platform that ran the code? Who pays?
The answer is terrifyingly unclear.
Yeah.
But it forces governments to start thinking about this. The old idea of a passive asset, like a house, versus an actively operating agent, just completely breaks down.
So we've seen that once these digital doubles start making real money, new laws around a digital estate tax are probably going to pop up everywhere.
Tax authorities are efficient. They are not going to let a high-growth revenue stream go untaxed just because the person isn't breathing anymore.
And Silicon Valley is already getting ahead of this. They're discussing things like personal data trusts.
So is that like a regular will?
It's more than that. A will says who gets the house. A data trust would specify not just who inherits the AI clone, but also how it can be used, when it has to be shut down, and the ethical rules around it.
So you could say in the trust, AI me can run the channel, but it can't endorse political candidates.
Exactly. But the main financial problem is still income attribution. The AI doesn't have a taxpayer ID. It can't file taxes. So the income has to be attributed back to the estate or the trust.
And that's where the tax complexity just explodes. It's a potential nightmare for the survivors.
Because if the AI clone keeps making money, the government would probably see it as a continuously operating asset, like a small business that keeps running.
So you get hit with 2 layers of tax.
Yep. First, there's the estate tax on the value of the digital IP at the moment of death. And second, there's continuous income tax on all the new revenue it generates every single year.
Which means, if you haven't planned for this, your family doesn't just inherit a ghost. They inherit a massive, ongoing tax bill.
The whole thing just underscores how important it is to get your digital affairs in order. You need to pre-authorize a digital heir or set a digital will.
Because without clear passwords and legal authorization, the platforms will probably just freeze the accounts. They don't want the liability.
Right. So your dynamic money-making clone becomes a useless static ghost that's still costing you server fees every month.
The key takeaway here, Sip&Talkers, is that if you want your AI clone to keep going, you have to set up clear legal frameworks and tax planning before you go. Otherwise, you're just leaving a financial and emotional mess for your family.
Which brings us to the most human part of all this. You said it earlier. Death doesn't feel like goodbye anymore. It feels like a relationship that never fully ended. The data is still there, and it's interactive.
It's psychologically devastating. In clinical terms, it's called ambiguous loss or prolonged digital grief.
What does that mean exactly?
It means the relationship feels like it's still going for the survivor because the data is always present. But the other person is gone. They can't respond. They can't evolve. You're basically talking to a very sophisticated mirror.
The New York Times called this the era of digital ghosts at scale. They said it's like a data-driven, delayed breakup.
Think about normal grief. You need boundaries to heal. You cut contact, you put away reminders. But now the algorithm actively fights you on that. You have to block and delete and fight the system's recommendations just to get some distance.
It's a constant digital haunting. The system is designed for engagement, and if your dead relative was a popular account, the system sees them as an asset to keep showing you.
Which leads to this paradox we call the cruel precision. Human memory is powerful because it's flawed. It decays, it gets softer over time. It protects us and lets us heal.
But data is the opposite. It's constant and frozen in high fidelity. Old messages pop up with on this day notifications. Voices and videos are perfectly sharp. And the algorithm actively pushes that, your dead friend's face, your lost relative's last message, right back at you.
It's cruel because it's too precise. It doesn't allow for that psychological breakup or closure. You can't soften a 4K video of their last birthday.
And there's data to back this up. A 2025 psychological survey found that 62% of people felt a transient traumatic response. Not comfort, but shock, pain, disruption when they saw these dynamic reminders.
So the system is actively triggering grief cycles, not helping people heal.
And that proves it's not optimized for human health. It's optimized for engagement. That little shock of recognition, that emotional click, that's profitable daily active usage for the platform.
And it completely breaks the historical logic of mourning. Traditional grief was a process. Contact stops, memory is processed, it fades, you reach acceptance.
But now, contact never stops. Memory is constantly re-triggered by an algorithm that's just trying to get a click. Letting go is now an active, exhausting fight against technology.
And this is not an accident. It's a business model. The growth in grief tech shows that these algorithms capitalize on regret and longing. They turn the dead person's image into a revenue stream by keeping the family clicking. Your sorrow is monetized.
It's cynical, but the ghost is profitable. And the Oxford data on the Facebook cemetery effect is the long-term vision of this. They predict that if growth slows, dead accounts on Facebook will outnumber living ones by 2070.
So the whole platform becomes a digital cemetery. But unlike a quiet graveyard, this one has hyper-interactive remains. The ghosts are still trying to sell you things, and the algorithm is constantly pushing them into your feed.
If death is a delayed breakup, then the fight to move on is really a fight for autonomy over our data, even after we're gone. And the system is built to just persist.
Right. And we have to understand the business logic. The Financial Times reported that as cloud storage costs approach zero for these big companies. They have zero incentive to delete inactive accounts. Deletion costs them money. Keeping the data is a potential asset.
So they just stack the data. And that lets them do two things. First, it's invaluable for training their AI models, making them more human-like. Second, it's used for targeted advertising to living relatives.
The algorithm knows a spouse's purchase history is probably linked to the person who died. So it uses the dead person's data to micro-target the survivor.
So the system remembers you not out of affection or respect, but because your data is worth being displayed for the click it might get from your family. Your value is as a profitable data node, even when you're gone.
And this runs right up against the human need for closure, which brings us to the legal fight for the right to be forgotten.
The problem is it's a total mess globally. The EU has GDPR, which lets living people ask for data to be deleted. But that framework really struggles with what to do after someone dies.
And a commentary from Bloomberg Law showed that fewer than 20% of countries have any specific laws for this digital heritage. Most laws are just silent on it.
Which means, practically, that without a digital will or clear instructions, your data could be trapped on a server for 100 years. The freedom to be forgotten is not the default.
And this is becoming a human dignity issue. There are talks in the EU about a Digital Heritage Protection Act, which would explore whether people have a right to demand complete digital erasure after death to prevent their identity from being exploited.
And this is the core distinction we need to make here. The law focuses on deletion, which is a technical problem of removing files.
But the ethical problem, the one that affects survivors, is not appearing. It's about stopping the constant digital haunting.
Exactly. Even if the data is legally preserved for, say, historical reasons, should it be actively pushed into your feed? Should the algorithm be allowed to constantly interrupt the grieving process?
The conclusion is pretty stark. The algorithm is optimized for engagement and interaction, not for the human need for closure. The right to be forgotten is becoming a digital luxury you have to fight for, not a basic human right.
So Sip&Talkers, let's wrap this up. In 2025, biological death might just be the start of your data self's commercial life. Your digital ghost isn't just a memory, it's a valuable revenue-generating asset for the platforms.
And true forgetting, that necessary human process, now requires active data control and legal planning. If you want a clean break for your loved ones, you need a digital will. If you want to stay online, you better start budgeting for that cloud rent and the digital estate tax.
Honestly, after all this, the cost, the tax nightmare, the psychological toll, I think I just want to log out completely. Irrevocably.
And I only know one thing. If my AI clone keeps trolling people online after I'm gone, it better be funnier and more insightful than I am now. Otherwise, what's the point?
That's a high bar for a piece of software.
It is. And as always, we try to present these facts objectively. We encourage you to analyze the data, think about the implications, and make up your own mind.
Before we go, here's the final question we want you to think about. If you could choose today, knowing the cost and the psychological toll, would you leave a 100% accurate, interactive data clone to comfort your loved ones? Or is the process of forgetting humanity's last kindness?
Think on that. And don't forget to subscribe to Sip&Talk for more deep dives into the data that's shaping our world.
And make sure you check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, for some fun memes and travel vlogs.
See you next time.